Hello, this is Ludvig for GamesRadar Plus, and I'm joined today by Ashley Reed.
Hello.
We're talking about Fatal Frame, Maiden of the Blackwater. Now, that's a very ominous title, but it is in fact the fifth game in the Fatal Frame series.
It is, in fact, and it is a smaller horror series, but a lot of people will probably remember it as the game where you kill ghosts with cameras. That usually, that trips people's memory.
Everyone knows that the camera is the natural enemy to the ghost, and I think Fatal Frame has taught us that very well. Now, you're using the gamepad on the Wii U version, and you're using it as the camera, is that correct?
Yes, all of the camera UI is exclusively on the gamepad, so while you'll have a little square showing where the camera is, you'll only be able to use it by lifting the gamepad up toward the TV and turning it and adjusting it.
Did you feel like that made it feel more natural, or like you were actually using a camera? Like, did it feel more important in the game as a result?
It did work a lot better than I suspected. When I first heard that this was going to be implemented, I was just like, oh no, this is going to be terrible. Because any sort of game that depends on motion control like that kind of runs into problems. But this actually worked pretty well because it doesn't strictly depend on where a sensor bar is. You can lift it up, and if you say, oh no, that's not right, you can hit the button and reset it so you can get it to exactly where you want. And then you can actually turn the gamepad at an angle so you can get maximum coverage of everything, every weak point on the ghost. So that actually works way better than I expected. It's probably one of the best parts of the game. Because otherwise, the typical killing with pictures combat is pretty much lifted whole cloth from the rest of the series. So.
Right, so you have a mixture of exploration and fighting ghosts with your viewfinder, as it were. Now, did you find that the game was scary? Did it feel like it kept up the feeling of suspense throughout? Because I think that's really why people are going to come to this, is they want to feel unsettled, they want to feel nervous all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like the horror was almost completely scrubbed from this one. There are a couple scenes where something scary happens, like a ghost will suddenly appear in front of a surveillance camera. You'll be like, oh no, and want to jump back. And the ghosts themselves are actually really scary. They have really bold designs, like someone who's been crushed under a car or hung from a tree. And they're really creepy. But unfortunately, most of the game kind of tries to remove that sense of suspense and horror. Like you always return to a home base, a safe home base. You never feel like you're trapped. You never feel like there's any real consequence to things that happen. Like you hear, oh, this terrible thing is going to happen to this character, and it happens, but it's actually not that bad. So you lose out on a lot of those scares, and then the ghosts in the environments are repeated so frequently that they lose their spark. They're no longer scary by the 15th time you've seen the exact same thing.
And tell me a little bit more about the premise of the game. Is it worth the scary factor? Is it worth walking through these scary woods to find out what happened?
I would actually say no, because unfortunately it's a very confused story that never seems to work the way it should, because you have three separate characters who are all point of view characters, but none of them are entirely relevant. There's one, Yuri, who's probably the most relevant character, and the other two are kind of there as cameo characters. They're related to other characters in the series, but they don't really have a use outside of that. So it's really just repeating the same plot points over and over again and going and doing random things that don't really work together in a useful way. So you just kind of end up with a jumble of stuff, and it really doesn't carry very well.
And what is your objective for most of the game? Why are you exploring these areas?
So what you're trying to do is there is this mountain called Mount Hikami, and on that mountain there is pure water, which is where souls go when they die, and there's black water, which is basically hell. And for some reason, the black water is mixing with the pure water, and you're trying to stop that from happening, and there's shrine maidens involved and people getting locked in boxes to rot, and it's very strange. But it all tries to come together as something to do with marriage in the end, and it's just very convoluted and weird. The basic idea is that you're trying to figure out what is happening on this mountain to cause these strange events. Like, there are suicides going on there. There's all sorts of weird environmental things happening. You're trying to figure that out, and the answer is very, very strange and doesn't really carry much horror with it because it doesn't really know where it's going.
So based on your review, would you say it is worth solving this mystery, worth going after it?
I would say no, unless you absolutely want to play another Fatal Frame game, or you just love the idea of playing a game that uses the Wii's gamepad for something, then I would say wait on it, or just don't play it at all, unfortunately. This one was not worth the wait.
And what was your final verdict?
I gave Fatal Frame Maiden of the Black Water 2.5 out of 5.
All right, folks, thanks for watching. And if you want to see more great GR Plus videos, well, our YouTube page is right over here. And if you want to get your READ read on, the GR Plus website is right over there.